All right, aspirants, welcome. Today we're jumping straight into the absolute powerhouse of India's economy, the services sector. We're going to break down the latest NITI Oct report and give you those crystal clear, high-scoring insights you need to really nail your exams.
So let's kick things off with a big question, one that you're almost guaranteed to see pop up in your economy papers. You know, for years, all we've heard about is Make in India, right? The big push to become this massive manufacturing giant. But does the data actually back that up? Let's take a look at what's really driving the growth engine.
And boom, here's your answer. Just look at that number, 54.5%. This one figure tells such a huge story. That's the slice of India's gross value added, or GVA, that comes from the services sector alone. You know, understanding this isn't just a nice to have. It's absolutely crucial for getting a real grip on modern India's economy. So let's unpack this.
Okay, here's our game plan for today. We're going to start with the big global picture, then zoom right into India's pretty unique story. After that, we'll decode the different subsectors, check out what's happening across the states, and finally wrap it all up with the key takeaways for your exams. It's a nice, logical structure to help you build out those killer answers.
All right, first up, let's set the stage. See, India's story, it's not happening in a bubble. It's actually part of this massive global shift towards service-based economies that's been going on for a long, long time.
Now this chart really puts it all into perspective. Just look at that. Globally, services aren't just a piece of the pie, they are the pie, making up a whopping 2/3 of all economic value. Industry share has kind of dipped a bit, and agriculture, well, it's just a tiny sliver. And the thing is, this isn't some new trend. This has been the reality for more than 20 years now.
Okay, so within that global picture, India's journey is what's really fascinating. Get this, back in 2000, India was ranked 17th in the world for services. Fast forward to 2023, and we've rocketed up 10 spots to 7th place. I mean, that's not just growth, that's an absolutely meteoric rise. It's what's turned India into a major core player on the global stage.
Okay, let's bring the focus back home to India, because our story is, well, it's pretty special. And this is a super important concept for you to grasp for your exams, mainly because India's growth story just doesn't follow the classic textbook rules.
This comparison right here is so important. On the left, you've got the economy back in 2011-12. On the right, where we are now. Now look closely. The primary sector, farming and all that, its share has gone down quite a bit. But here's the kicker. Look at the secondary sector, the industrial one. It's flat, completely stagnant. So where did all the growth go? It was all soaked up by the services sector, which bulged by over 5 percentage points.
And this leads us to a huge keyword for your answers. Seriously, write this one down. Premature deindustrialization. Now, what does that mean? Well, the classic economic path for a country is you go from agriculture to a big manufacturing boom and then finally to services. But India, we kind of leapfrog that whole manufacturing boom part, jumping straight to a service-heavy economy way earlier than anyone expected. This term, it captures that unique journey perfectly.
So, you're probably asking, how on earth was that leapfrog even possible? Well, the answer comes down to these 3 T's. First, technology. Digital platforms meant you could deliver a service from anywhere. That created transportability, right? Services were no longer stuck in one place. And what does that lead to? Tradability. Suddenly, you could buy and sell services like software coding or consulting across borders, just like you would a t-shirt. And that's what turned services into this massive global growth engine.
All right, so we've established that services are king, but services is a huge umbrella term. So now let's pop the hood and get a little more granular. Let's see what's actually powering this engine from the inside. What are the specific parts making it run?
This chart really shows us the core drivers. And what's cool is the mix. You've got your more traditional stuff like trade and repair, which is a big chunk, but right alongside it, you have these modern powerhouses, professional and business services, and of course the ever-booming computer and IT services. And get this, just those 3 together make up more than half of our entire services economy.
Now this table, this adds another really interesting layer. It shows that not all services are created equal. I mean, you've got your champions, the real high flyers like travel, bouncing back strong, and computer services, which are just always on fire. But then you look at the other side, and you see laggards. Sectors like insurance and pensions actually went backward. And what does that tell us? It tells us you can't have a one-size-fits-all policy. Different parts of this engine need different kinds of fuel.
So with all that diversity, how should policymakers even approach this? Well, here's a fantastic little trick for your exam answers, straight from the NITI Oct report. It's a mnemonic, a simple framework to help you remember. Just think, EAMS.
So what's EEMS? It stands for Engines, Emerging, Mature, and Struggling. For the engines of growth, your big, fast movers, you focus on innovation to keep them going. For the emerging stars, the small guys growing like crazy, you need to focus on skills and talent. For the mature giants, the big but slow ones, it's all about regulatory reform to shake things up. And finally, for the struggling segments, you need to find ways to revitalize them, usually with a dose of technology. See? It's a brilliant framework for any policy question you get.
All right, now let's drill down even further to the state level. Because, and this is super important, this whole services revolution isn't happening everywhere in India at the same pace. The picture is way more patchy, and it shows some really clear regional patterns.
You can clearly see a few states have become the absolute powerhouses. You've got this strong southern hub. Think Karnataka, Telangana, Kerala, riding the IT wave. Out west, Maharashtra is a leader, driven by the financial heart of Mumbai. And then you have these insane urban economies, like Delhi and Chandigarh, where services make up a staggering 85 to 90% of everything.
Now, all this unevenness brings us to another key exam concept, convergence, specifically something called beta convergence. It sounds complex, but it's a simple idea. It's the theory that places that start behind will grow faster and eventually start to catch up to the leaders. And here's the good news. The NITI Oct report actually found evidence that this is happening. States that had smaller service sectors to begin with are now growing them faster. It's a great sign that this growth is starting to spread out.
Wow, okay. We have covered a ton of ground, right? From the global scene all the way down to what's happening in different states. So now, let's pull it all together. Let's create one final, super impactful summary that's built specifically for your last-minute revision.
And I'm serious about this. Get your phone out, get ready to take a screenshot. This next slide is your ultimate cheat sheet. It's the one you're going to want to glance at right before you walk into that exam hall. You ready?
Okay, here it is. Let's do a lightning round. 1. Services are dominant, 54.5% of GVA. 2. India's growth path is unique. Remember that key word, premature deindustrialization. 3. It's our most resilient sector. 4. The key subsectors are professional, trade, and computer services. That's over half the pie. 5. The fastest engine is computer and info services. 6. Growth across states is uneven, but 7. There is a catch-up happening. That's your beta convergence. 8. Your policy framework is the EEMS mnemonic. And 9. Globally, we've jumped from 17th to 7th. Seriously, this slide is your blueprint.
And so, all of this leaves us with a big, critical question for the future. The numbers don't lie. Services are the engine of India's economy. But the real challenge, the billion-dollar question, is how do we make sure this growth is inclusive? How do we create enough high-quality jobs for our massive workforce? That's the puzzle policymakers are trying to solve. And it's exactly that kind of deep, analytical thinking that will set your answers apart.